Imagine looking in the mirror just 7 days from now and not seeing the same version of yourself, but a stronger, sharper, more determined one. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? 7 days? Just 1 week? But the truth is, life does not change in years. It changes in days. It changes in moments. It changes the very instant you decide. Enough is enough. Today, I start again. 7 days may not solve every problem in your life, but 7 days of momentum can ignite a lifetime of change. On the first day, begin with gratitude. Most of us wake up thinking of what's missing, what's wrong, what we don't yet have. But when you start your morning by writing down 3 simple things you're grateful for, the entire world looks different. The bed you slept in, the breath in your lungs, the fact that you woke up at all. Gratitude doesn't remove your problems. It transforms you. And when you change, everything else begins to shift. On the second day, move your body. Energy is life. And when you sit still all day, your mind becomes heavy, your spirit becomes slow. Just 20 minutes of walking, stretching, or simple exercise will fire up your brain and awaken your energy. Ask yourself, what is stopping me from giving 20 minutes to the body that carries me through this life? On the third day, eliminate one toxic habit. We all carry something that silently destroys us. Maybe it's scrolling for hours. Maybe it's negative self-talk. Maybe it's staying up too late. Choose one and cut it. Yes, it will be uncomfortable, but remember this. Your life isn't destroyed by one mistake. It's destroyed by small habits repeated daily, and it is rebuilt the same way. On the fourth day, feed your mind. A strong life cannot be built on a weak mind. Read 10 pages of a book. Listen to something educational. Learn something new. Your mind is like a garden, and if you don't plant flowers, weeds will grow by default. Protect it, nourish it, strengthen it. On the fifth day, do something hard. Comfort is easy, but comfort kills growth. Make the phone call you've been avoiding. Speak when you normally stay silent. Push yourself one more step in your workout. Each time you face difficulty and survive, your brain whispers back, "See? You can handle more than you thought." That whisper becomes confidence. That confidence becomes strength. On the sixth day, serve someone else. We spend so much time trapped in our own problems that we forget the power of giving. Call a friend who needs you. Encourage someone who feels broken. Offer a smile to a stranger. Because when you lift others, you rise too. Sometimes the healing you've been searching for is hidden inside the healing you give to someone else. And finally, on the seventh day, reflect and reset. Life moves fast, too fast. Without reflection, you end up repeating the same mistakes again and again. Take 30 minutes. Sit in silence. Ask yourself, what did I learn this week? Where did I fail? Where did I grow? Progress, no matter how small, only becomes real when you pause long enough to notice it. Here are some key points related to this. Small daily habits create big transformations. Gratitude shifts your mindset from lack to abundance. Moving your body boosts your energy and mental clarity. Removing one toxic habit creates space for growth. Doing hard things builds resilience and self-belief. Serving others and reflecting weekly fuels long-term success. When you open your eyes in the morning, what is the very first thought that crosses your mind? For most people, it's not joy, not peace, not excitement. It's stress. It's worry. It's the weight of unfinished work, unpaid bills, unspoken words. The alarm clock rings, and instead of gratitude for another chance at life, the first emotion is often irritation that sleep has ended. But what if the very first few minutes of your day were not about lack, but about abundance? What before you even touched your phone or stepped out of bed, you trained your mind to search for blessings instead of burdens? That is the power of gratitude. And it's not just a spiritual idea. It's a weapon, it's a shield, it's a tool to completely reframe your life. I remember a man once telling me, if you can't be grateful for what you have, what makes you think you'd be grateful for more? That sentence stayed with me because so many of us live in this constant chase for the next thing. The better job, the bigger house, the perfect relationship, the new car. And while chasing is natural, the trap is that when you finally get what you once prayed for, you don't stop to feel thankful. you immediately want something else. That's why people with millions can still feel poor, why someone surrounded by love can still feel lonely, why a person blessed with health can still complain about their body. Gratitude isn't about what you have. It's about how you see. Think of a child on their birthday. You hand them a small toy, nothing fancy, just something colorful that makes noise. Watch their eyes. Watch the way they light up as though you've given them the world. They run around, they laugh, they treasure it. Now imagine giving that same toy to an adult. They'd probably say, "What is this? Is that all?" Same gift, different eyes. Gratitude is learning to see with the eyes of that child again, to take what's in front of you and decide it's enough. Psychologists have studied this and found that gratitude actually rewires your brain. When you focus on what you're thankful for, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, the same chemicals linked to happiness. It's like giving your mind medicine every single morning without a prescription. And the more you practice it, the stronger the neural pathways become, making your brain naturally search for the good even in hard situations. Imagine walking into a storm and still being able to see a rainbow. That's what happens when gratitude becomes your default state. I know someone who practices this every single day. She wakes up, and before even brushing her teeth, she sits on the edge of her bed and speaks out loud 3 things she's grateful for. Sometimes it's profound, like the fact that her mother recovered from illness. Other times, it's as simple as, "I'm grateful for the cup of coffee I'm about to drink." But she told me something interesting. She said that when she started this habit, her problems didn't go away, but the weight of them changed. The same challenges were there, but she carried them differently, almost like her shoulders grew stronger overnight. Gratitude didn't erase her struggles, but gave her a reason to fight through them. Now think about the opposite for a moment. Think of someone who wakes up and immediately complains. They complain about the weather. They complain about traffic. They complain about their job, their family, their body, their opportunities. Even when something good happens, they find a flaw in it. Have you ever noticed that these people are never truly happy? They drain the energy out of a room because their focus is chained to negativity. It's not that their life is objectively worse than everyone else's. It's that their perspective poisons them. And the scariest part? Complaining is addictive. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. It's like digging a hole that gets deeper each day, until one day you can't climb out anymore. Gratitude is the rope that pulls you back up. I'll never forget visiting a hospital ward where children were battling cancer. You expect the air to be heavy, filled with sorrow. But what I saw shook me. These children, bald from treatment, weak from medication, were smiling. They were playing board games, laughing with nurses, holding their parents' hands with joy in their eyes. One boy looked up at me and said, "I'm just grateful I get to see my mom every day." That sentence cut through me. Here was a child who didn't know if he'd live to see his teenage years, yet his heart was light because of gratitude. Meanwhile, outside that hospital, healthy adults were complaining about slow Wi-Fi, long coffee lines, and Monday mornings. Do you see the difference? Gratitude is not about circumstances. It's about perspective. Maybe you've heard the saying, "What you focus on grows." If you focus on problems, they expand in your mind. If you focus on blessings, they expand too. Imagine 2 people standing in front of the same mountain. One says, "This mountain is too high, too hard, too much." The other says, "Thank God I have legs strong enough to climb." Same mountain, different mindset. The one filled with gratitude will start climbing. The one filled with complaints will sit down and never move. Gratitude also has a strange way of multiplying. The more you acknowledge what you have, the more life seems to give you. Not because the universe magically delivers, but because you start noticing opportunities you once ignored. You attract people who share your positive energy. You treat others with more kindness, which comes back to you. You work harder because you're fueled by appreciation instead of drained by bitterness. In other words, gratitude is not passive. It's active. It builds momentum. So ask yourself right now, what could you be grateful for at this very moment? Maybe it's the fact that you can hear these words. Some people cannot. Maybe it's a device in your hand that connects you to the world. Some people don't have it. Maybe it's the simple reality that you woke up today, because many didn't. When you realize that even the things you take for granted are things someone else is desperately praying for, you begin to understand that your life is already rich. And yet gratitude is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's not about ignoring pain or denying hardship. It's about finding light even in the darkness. It's about saying, this storm is real, but thank God I still have shelter. This loss hurts, but thank God I still have love in my heart. This struggle is tough, but thank God I'm still here to fight. Gratitude doesn't dismiss your suffering. It gives it meaning. There's a quote that says, gratitude turns what we have into enough. That's the heart of it. Enough. Not too little. Not too much. Just enough. And once you accept enough, you gain peace. Because peace isn't when you finally get everything you want. Peace is when you recognize you already have more than you ever deserved. So tomorrow morning when the alarm clock rings, before you let your mind wander to worry or stress, stop. Take a breath. Whisper to yourself 3 things you're grateful for. Do it again the next day. And the next. Watch how slowly, quietly, powerfully your life begins to change. Because gratitude doesn't just rebuild your mornings. Gratitude rebuilds your entire life from the inside out. When was the last time you truly felt alive in your own body? Not just existing, not just dragging yourself through the motions, but genuinely alive, full of energy, full of clarity, full of strength. For many people, it has been so long they can barely remember. Most of us spend our days sitting, staring at screens, moving from one chair to another, car seat, office desk, dining table, couch. We wake up tired. We push through the day tired, and we go to bed tired, thinking that this is normal. But what if I told you the tiredness is not just in your mind? What if the heaviness you carry every day is your body's way of crying out for movement? Because the truth is simple. When your body moves, your mind awakens. Energy isn't something you wait for. It's something you create. Imagine a river. When the water flows, it stays clear, fresh, alive. But when the water is stagnant, unmoving, it becomes muddy, heavy, full of decay. Your body is the same. When you move, even just a little, you create flow inside yourself. Blood circulates, oxygen spreads, chemicals release. Your mood shifts, your thoughts sharpen, your spirit feels lighter. But when you sit still for too long, you stagnate, you become heavy not just physically but emotionally too. Have you ever noticed that on the days you don't move much, you also feel less motivated, more anxious, more clouded in your thinking? That is not a coincidence. The mind and the body are not separate. They are deeply connected, like 2 sides of the same coin. I once spoke to a man who struggled with depression for years. He tried everything, medications, therapy, endless distractions, but nothing seemed to pull him out of fog. Then one day, a doctor gave him the simplest advice. Walk every morning. Just 20 minutes. Rain or shine. No excuses. At first, he resisted. How could walking fix what years of pain could not? But he did it anyway. The first week felt pointless. His legs hurt. His mind still dragged him down. But by the second week, something shifted. He noticed a morning air filling his lungs. He noticed the sun rising, painting the sky in colors he had never bothered to see before. He noticed his heart beating faster, stronger, as though it was reminding him he was still alive. Within a month, he said the fog had not disappeared, but he had learned how to find light in the middle of it. That was the power of movement. Not a cure-all, not magic, but a step, a rhythm, a reminder that his body could lead his mind back to life. Maybe you don't think of yourself as an exercise person. Maybe gyms intimidate you. Maybe you think you're too old, too weak, too busy. But movement is not about heavy weights or perfect abs. Movement is life itself. It could be as simple as stretching your arms toward the ceiling, feeling your spine unlock. It could be dancing alone in your room to a song that makes your heart race. It could be walking up the stairs instead of taking the elevator. It could be running after your child in the park. Not worry about how you look, but celebrating the fact that your legs can carry you. Every single movement is a message to your brain that says, I am here, I'm alive, I am capable. Think of animals in the wild. Do you ever see them sitting still for hours, staring at a glowing screen? No, They run, they hunt, they stretch, they leap. Movement is coded into their very existence. Humans are no different. We were not designed to be still for 10 hours a day. We were built to move, to bend, to climb, to carry, to sweat. And when we deny our body that gift, we deny ourselves the energy that comes with it. That's why so many people walk around feeling drained, without realizing they're the ones draining themselves by refusing to move. There's a famous line that says, if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll be forced to make time for your illness. How true that is. Ignore your body long enough, and it will remind you in the form of fatigue, aches, anxiety, disease. But care for it with simple, consistent movement, and it will repay you with clarity, confidence, and resilience. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be extreme. You just have to be consistent. 20 minutes a day is enough to start. 20 minutes to create momentum, to tell your body you are no longer ignoring it. I knew a woman in her 60s who began walking every evening after losing her husband. At first, it was just to escape the silence of her house, to keep herself from breaking under grief. But as the weeks passed, she noticed something. The sadness was still there, but it was lighter on the days she walked. Her mind felt calmer. Her sleep came easier. Her tears no longer drowned her. She told me, walking became my therapy. It was the way I told myself, I'm still here. I can still keep going. Her story is a reminder that movement isn't just about physical health. It's about emotional survival. Think of all the times you felt stuck in life, overwhelmed, unsure of what to do next. What did you do in those moments? Most people sit, they overthink, they spiral. But the quickest way to break that pattern is to stand up and move. Go for a walk. Do 10 push-ups. Stretch your body until you feel your muscles unlock. Because movement shifts your state, and once your state shifts, your thoughts follow. Tony Robbins once said, emotion is created by motion. It means if you want to change the way you feel, start by changing the way you move. And here's the truth. Your body is not asking for perfection. It doesn't demand marathons, six-pack abs, or Olympic medals. It only asks for respect. Respect in the form of daily movement, even in small doses. Respect in the form of listening when it says, I need to stretch, I need to breathe, I need to be alive. You already carry within you the most powerful tool to rebuild your energy, and it doesn't cost a thing, just your willingness to move. So ask yourself right now, what is 20 minutes compared to the rest of your life? What is one walk compared to a lifetime of fatigue? What is one stretch compared to the heaviness you've been dragging? If you can give your body just a little every day, it will give you more in return than you can imagine. Your body is not your prison. It is your vehicle. And vehicles are meant to move. There are moments in life when we wonder why nothing changes. Why, no matter how hard we try to move forward, it feels like we're dragging a heavy chain behind us. That chain is not always visible, but it's real. It's made of small, silent habits that slowly eat away at us. They may not destroy us in a single blow, but repeated day after day, they chip at our strength, our confidence, our hope. And yet, we cling to them because they feel familiar, they feel comfortable, they feel safe, even as they quietly suffocate us. Eliminating one toxic habit can feel like tearing out a piece of yourself, but it is also the first breath of freedom you didn't know you were missing. Think about it for a moment. Everyone has at least one habit they know is holding them back. Maybe it's scrolling endlessly on your phone at night, promising yourself just 5 more minutes that turn into 2 wasted hours. Maybe it's the constant self-criticism, the voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough. Maybe it's the comfort food you reach for when stress hits, even though you know it makes you feel worse afterward. Maybe it's toxic relationships you keep entertaining, because loneliness scares you more than misery. Whatever it is, deep down you know it's costing you something. It's costing you time, energy, health, dreams. And the cruelest part? You convince yourself it's harmless, because one more night, one more bite, one more hour, one more excuse feels too small to matter. But those one mores add up until you wake up years later wondering where your life went. I once met a man who admitted that his greatest enemy wasn't alcohol, drugs, or gambling. It was procrastination. He would delay everything, dreams, projects, even simple tasks. until he buried himself in stress and regret. At first, it didn't seem serious. Just putting off cleaning, delaying a phone call, skipping a workout. But over time, his entire life became one giant delay. He lost job opportunities because he never applied in time. He lost relationships because he never showed up when people needed him. He even lost faith in himself because each day he broke promises to his own soul. One day he looked in the mirror and whispered, "I am the reason I'm stuck." That realization broke him, but it also rebuilt him because once he identified his toxic habit, he had the power to remove it. He started small, completing one task immediately, no matter how small. Slowly, the weight lifted and momentum replaced stagnation. Eliminating one toxic habit saved his life. The danger with toxic habits is that they disguise themselves as comfort. Scrolling your phone numbs the loneliness. Junk food gives a rush of pleasure. Gossiping makes you feel connected, even powerful, for a moment. Complaining releases pressure temporarily. But comfort is a trap because it never solves the real problem. It only distracts you from it. The more you lean on it, the more dependent you become until suddenly it owns you. That's why eliminating one toxic habit isn't just about subtraction. It's about liberation. You are cutting the rope that ties you to mediocrity. Imagine carrying a backpack full of rocks every single day. At first, one rock doesn't feel heavy. You tell yourself, "It's fine, I can carry this." But then you add another and another and another. Over the years, the weight becomes unbearable, yet you convince yourself this is just how life feels. Then one day, you take out just one rock, and suddenly you realize how much lighter you could feel. That's what happens when you cut one toxic habit. It might seem small, but the relief is enormous. It creates space for clarity, energy, and possibility. I knew a young woman who struggled with late-night binge eating. Every night, after promising herself she'd stop, she'd find herself standing in front of the fridge at midnight, grabbing whatever she could. It wasn't hunger. It was stress. It was loneliness. It was unprocessed pain. She hated herself for it. One day, she decided to do something radical. She didn't try to change everything at once. She just replaced that single midnight ritual with a new one. Every time she felt the urge, she picked up a journal and wrote down exactly what she was feeling. At first, she thought it was silly, but slowly she realized she wasn't hungry at all. She was anxious, sad, or overwhelmed. By eliminating that toxic ritual, she not only stopped gaining weight, but she discovered the root of her emotions and began healing them. She said to me, "I thought food was my comfort, but it was actually my cage. Writing set me free." Sometimes, people think change requires a massive overhaul. They think they have to transform their entire life overnight. And when they can't, they give up. But the truth is, transformation begins with eliminating just one thing. One toxic pattern. One poisonous relationship. One destructive habit. Because when you cut one, you prove to yourself you have the strength to cut another and another. Momentum builds. And soon, the life you once thought was impossible begins to take shape in front of you. But let me be honest, it won't be easy. Toxic habits cling to you because they become part of your identity. Letting go can feel like losing a piece of yourself. You will crave it. You will miss it. You will hear the voice in your head saying, "Just one more time." But remember, every craving is just a test, a whisper asking, "Are you serious about changing?" If you can endure the discomfort of letting go, you will discover a strength inside you that you didn't even know was there. And that strength will spill into every other area of your life. Think of it like cleaning out a room filled with clutter. At first, you don't know where to start. You feel overwhelmed by the mess. But then you pick one thing, just one, and throw it away. Suddenly, there's a little more space, a little more light. And with each item you remove, the room begins to transform. Eliminating one toxic habit is like that first piece of clutter. It's small, but it starts a chain reaction. So ask yourself, what is the one toxic habit you already know is holding you back? Don't lie to yourself. Don't pretend it's not there. You know what it is. It's the thing you run to when you're stressed, the thing you excuse with just one more, the thing that makes you feel weak afterward. That habit is the thief of your potential, and you have a choice. Keep carrying it until it breaks you, or cut it before it does. The power of your life is hidden in the habits you choose to keep and the ones you choose to let go. Eliminate just one, and you'll feel the weight lift, the air clear, the path ahead open. One decision can begin to rebuild your entire life, but only if you're brave enough to make it. There is something powerful about the way the human mind works, something both fragile and extraordinary. Every thought you feed it, every story you allow it to absorb, every word you let echo inside it becomes part of the soil where your future grows. If you pour poison into that soil, your dreams wither before they even have a chance to sprout. But if you feed your mind with strength, wisdom, inspiration, and clarity, you create a garden where growth is inevitable. The mind is like a fire. It will burn whatever you throw into it. Throw in trash, and it will produce smoke that chokes you. Throw in fuel, and it will blaze with a light that guides you forward. That is why what you feed your mind matters more than almost anything else in life. Imagine two people who wake up in the morning. The first rolls over, grabs their phone, and immediately scrolls through social media. Within minutes, they've seen arguments, comparison, negativity, and a flood of information they can't even process. Their mind is already clouded before they've had a sip of water. The second person wakes up and instead opens a book, listens to something inspiring, or writes down 3 things they are grateful for. They are feeding their mind clarity, gratitude, and focus. By the time they step out into the world, one person is already drained and the other is already fueled. Same world, same day, but completely different experiences. That's the difference between starving your mind and feeding it. There was once a young man who wanted to change his life, but didn't know where to start. He wasn't surrounded by wealthy mentors or powerful people. His friends joked more than they dreamed, and his family never spoke about possibilities beyond survival. One day he heard a speaker say, "You are the average of the 5 voices you listen to the most." That shook him, because he realized his 5 voices were gossip, fear, complaint, doubt, and distraction. He decided if he couldn't change the people around him yet, he would change the voices he allowed into his mind. He began listening to audiobooks on his way to work, filling his ears with ideas of discipline, success, resilience. Slowly, his mind shifted. He saw opportunities he never noticed before, and his energy began to intimidate the very people who once mocked him, all because he fed his mind something new. Your mind is like a sponge. It soaks up whatever it's placed in. Place it in negativity, and it becomes heavy and toxic. Place it in possibility, and it expands with life. Many people don't realize how much of their struggle comes not from the obstacles outside, but from the diet of thoughts they consume daily. They binge on fear through the news. They snack on comparison through social media. They sip on gossip in conversations. Then they wonder why they feel weak, hopeless, and stuck. If you want strength, you must feed your mind strength. If you want peace, you must feed your mind peace. If you want success, you must feed your mind success. I remember meeting a woman who had been through years of setbacks, failed businesses, a broken marriage, financial ruin. She told me the turning point was not a sudden lottery ticket, not some miracle, but a single book. She said she picked it up by accident, yet inside it were words that pierced her soul. Your thoughts create your future. At first, she doubted it, but she kept reading. Slowly, she noticed her thoughts shifting from why me to why not me. She replaced hours of worry with hours of learning. Within a year, she rebuilt her business, not because life became easier, but because she became stronger in her mind. She told me, "The moment I started feeding my mind differently, my life began to taste different too." It's easy to underestimate this, because thoughts are invisible. You can't see them piling up like fast food wrappers in a room, but they are there, shaping the environment of your soul. That's why feeding your mind is not just about learning. It's about protecting. You must guard what you allow inside. Just as you wouldn't let someone dump garbage into your living room, why let them dump it into your mind? Every conversation, every show, every song, every scroll leaves a trace. The question is, are those traces building you or breaking you? One man once said, "Stand guard at the door of your mind, as if your life depends on it, because it does." And he was right. The enemy is often subtle. It's not always a loud, obvious negativity that destroys you. Sometimes it's the small, repeated voices of limitation, the casual jokes about failure, the subtle doubts of people who never dared to dream. Feed on that, and your own dreams shrink without you even realizing it. But if you surround yourself with voices of courage, wisdom, and faith, your own voice begins to echo the same strength. Think of the greatest achievers in history. They all had this in common. They fed their minds relentlessly. Leaders devoured books. Inventors obsessed over new ideas. Athletes consumed motivation like oxygen. They didn't wait for inspiration to come knocking. They created an environment where inspiration had no choice but to live. One athlete once said, "The hardest battle is not on the field. It's in my head. That's why I train my mind every day as much as I train my body." That's the truth. Success is born in the mind long before it appears in reality. But let me tell you, feeding your mind is not always glamorous. It means choosing a podcast over gossip, a book over another episode, a journal over distraction. It means letting go of voices you've grown comfortable with, even if they are friends or family, because you recognize that not all voices deserve access to your thoughts. It means repetition, because just like the body, the mind needs daily nourishment. You can't feed your body one healthy meal and expect to live off it for a month. The same is true for your thoughts. I once heard someone describe it perfectly. Your mind is like a garden. If you don't plant flowers, weeds will grow by default. Negativity doesn't need permission. It shows up on its own. Doubt, fear, laziness, they all sneak in when the mind is left unattended. But when you actively feed it, when you plant knowledge, gratitude, vision, and discipline, you begin to see beauty where there was once only chaos. So imagine your future self for a moment. Imagine standing years from now, looking back on today. What would that version of you thank you for feeding your mind? Would they thank you for the hours wasted on comparison? Or would they thank you for the wisdom you chose to learn? Would they thank you for letting fear drown your thoughts? Or for replacing fear with faith, persistence, and clarity? That version of you is waiting, and every choice you make about what to feed your mind is shaping who they become. The truth is, you don't become what you wish for. You become what you consistently consume. You're the stories you read, the voices you listen to, the words you repeat, the images you focus on. And when you finally understand this, when you begin feeding your mind with care and intention, you stop being a prisoner of circumstance and start becoming an architect of destiny. There's a secret most people never learn because they spend their lives running from it. The secret that your strength is not revealed in the easy moments. It is revealed in the difficult ones. Every time you step into something that feels hard, every time you push past a point where comfort would have made you stop, you prove to yourself that you are more capable than you once believed. And that proof is priceless because confidence is not built by telling yourself you are strong. It is built by showing yourself you can endure. Think about the way a diamond is made. Carbon on its own is fragile, ordinary, even dull. But when it is pressed under the weight of the earth and heated to extremes, it was never designed to survive. It transforms into the hardest, most brilliant stone on the planet. Pressure creates beauty. Hardship creates strength. Without the weight, there is no diamond. Without the struggle, there is no greatness. So when life places something heavy on your shoulders, instead of asking, "Why me?" you might begin to ask, "What will this make of me?" Imagine a man who has been avoiding a conversation with his father for years. The silence between them has grown so wide it feels like an ocean. He knows he must say what has been trapped in his heart, but fear keeps tying him down. One day, he finally gathers the courage to sit across from his father and speak. His voice trembles, his heart pounds, and every second feels unbearable. But when he finishes, a weight he has carried for decades begins to lift. Was it hard? Yes. Was it uncomfortable? Completely. But in that one act of courage, he rebuilt a relationship he thought was lost forever. That is the power of facing what is hard. Sometimes the pain of doing it is smaller than the pain of avoiding it. Every breakthrough you want in life has a wall of discomfort standing in front of it. The fit body you desire is hidden behind mornings where you don't feel like moving. The financial freedom you crave is buried under the risk of starting something uncertain. The love you long for is protected by the vulnerability of opening your heart. Everything worth having demands a price, and that price is often discomfort. Jim Rohn once said, "Don't wish it were easier. wish you were better. That line has carried generations because it reminds us that the goal is not to reduce the weight of life, but to increase the strength of the person carrying it. I once met a young woman who had a dream of becoming a public speaker, but she was terrified of standing in front of people. Her hands shook, her voice cracked, and she felt like her chest was caving in whenever she stepped on stage. Most people told her quit, that maybe this wasn't her path. But she decided to keep going. She stood on small stages, shaking and stuttering, but she kept showing up. With every speech, she grew a little braver, a little stronger. Years later, that same woman was addressing thousands in arenas, speaking with confidence and fire. People asked her how she did it, and she always gave the same answer: I decided to do the thing that scared me until it didn't anymore. That is the truth about doing hard things. It never feels good in the moment, but it transforms you beyond measure. Your brain is like a muscle, and every time you choose to push against resistance, it grows. Scientists call it neuroplasticity, but you and I can call it rewiring. Each hard choice rewires your brain to recognize that fear is not fatal and discomfort is not danger. Over time, what once terrified you becomes normal, and what was once impossible becomes routine. Think of a soldier in training. On the first day, carrying heavy packs and running through mud feels unbearable. But day after day, as they endure, their body and mind adapt. What was once misery becomes discipline, and what was once fear becomes instinct. Life is training us the same way. Every time you endure a hard season, you are not just surviving, you are training for something greater. It is easy to live in the illusion that avoiding discomfort will protect you, but avoidance is its own prison. If you run from hard conversations, your relationships grow weaker. If you run from hard work, your dreams remain just that, dreams. If you run from your fears, they grow bigger in the shadows. Avoidance keeps you safe, but it also keeps you small. And deep down, you were not built to be small. You were built to stretch, to rise, to discover the limits of your strength and then push beyond them. I remember hearing a story of a man who decided to run a marathon even though he was not a runner. He said the hardest part wasn't the miles, it was the voices in his head screaming, "You can't do this." But as he pushed through the pain, mile after mile, those voices grew weaker until they were replaced with something new. Keep going. You're stronger than you think. By the time he crossed the finish line, he realized the true victory wasn't the medal. It was the unshakable belief in himself he had built along the way. That is what happens when you do what is hard. You don't just accomplish the task in front of you. You reshape the person you are becoming. You train your mind to trust you, your body to follow you, and your soul to believe in you. You stop being the person who doubts and starts being the person who dares. So when life presents you with something difficult, a choice, a challenge, a fear, you must remember that inside that moment is the seed of transformation. Every time you step into the fire, you come out refined. Every time you lift a weight, you come out stronger. And every time you do the hard thing, you silence the voice of weakness inside you and awaken the voice of power. And that voice will carry you further than comfort ever could. There is a kind of healing that cannot be found in money, success, or even personal achievement. It is the healing that comes when you lift someone else. We live in a world where people are constantly told to look out for themselves, to chase their own dreams, to protect their own interests. And while there is truth in building yourself, something magical happens when you pause and turn your attention outward. When you stop asking, "What do I get?" and start asking, "What can I give?" A part of you awakens that was asleep. Serving others does not just change them. It transforms you. It softens your heart, sharpens your perspective, and reminds you what it means to be human. Think about the last time you helped someone without expecting anything in return. Maybe you gave directions to a stranger. Maybe you encouraged a friend who was struggling. Maybe you simply offered a smile to someone who looked like the world was weighing them down. Do you remember how you felt in that moment? For a brief second, your own worries faded. The deadlines, the bills, the noise of your problems quieted. Why? Because service takes you out of the prison of your own head and connects you to something bigger. There was once a man who was struggling deeply with depression. He had tried everything, therapy, medication, distraction, but the heaviness never lifted. One day, his counselor gave him an unusual assignment. She told him, "For the next week, I want you to stop focusing on how broken you feel and find one way every day to serve someone else." At first he resisted, thinking it sounded too simple, almost insulting, but he agreed. The first day, he held the door for people at his office and complimented a co-worker who was often overlooked. The second day, he bought a meal for a homeless man. By the third day, he wrote a letter to his mother, thanking her for sacrifices she made decades ago. And something began to shift. He wasn't cured instantly, but for the first time in years, he felt light returning. He later said, "I went looking to heal others, but in the process, I started to heal myself." That is a hidden gift of service. It breaks the cycle of self-obsession. When all you see are your own problems, they grow bigger and heavier. But when you see the needs of others, your perspective expands. Suddenly, the job you hate becomes a blessing because it allows you to provide. The struggles you carry seem smaller compared to the weight others bear. And instead of drowning in your own pain, you become a source of hope in someone else's storm. There's a quote by Winston Churchill that says, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." It is not the titles, the money, or the applause that make life meaningful. It is the lives we touch along the way. Picture the greatest leaders and thinkers in history. The ones we remember are not those who collected the most, but those who gave the most. Mother Teresa had no riches, yet her service touched millions. Nelson Mandela spent years in prison, yet his spirit of forgiveness and service rebuilt a nation. Their power was not in what they gained, but in what they gave. But service does not have to be grand or global to matter. Sometimes the smallest act carries the greatest weight. A teacher who notices a child sitting quietly at the back of the room and takes the time to ask if they're okay. A neighbor who checks on the elderly woman living alone and brings her a meal. A friend who listens without judgment when you pour out your heart. These simple moments ripple in ways we can never measure. You never know how much one kind word can mean to someone who is on the verge of giving up. There was a story of a teenager who had decided he was going to end his life. On his way home, carrying the weight of that choice, another student stopped him, smiled, and said, "Hey, man, I'm glad you're here." Just 6 words. Later, that teenager said it was those words that stopped him from going through with it. To the student who spoke them, it was a passing moment. To the boy who heard them, it was salvation. That is the power you hold every day. You may not change the whole world, but you can change someone's world with the simplest act of service. And here's the truth. Serving others doesn't require that you have everything figured out. You don't need to be rich to give. You don't need to be perfect to help. You don't even need to feel strong to lift someone else. Sometimes the people who are hurting the most are the ones who serve the most deeply, because they understand what pain feels like. Out of their brokenness comes compassion, and out of compassion comes connection. When you serve others, you discover strength inside you that was hidden. You realize that no matter how small you feel, you have the power to impact lives. And strangely, the more you give away, the more you find yourself filled. Your joy grows, your meaning deepens, and your life expands. It is almost as if the heart was never meant to keep everything inside. It was designed to overflow. So imagine what would happen if you woke up each day and asked yourself, who can I serve today? Not because you have to, but because you get to. Imagine if instead of focusing only on climbing your own ladder, you reached down and pulled someone else up with you. Imagine if every setback you've endured became a story that helps someone else rise from theirs. That is when pain becomes purpose. And purpose is what makes life worth living. At the end of your life, people will not remember the car you drove, the size of your house, or the titles behind your name. They will remember how you made them feel. They will remember the times you stood by them when everyone else walked away. They will remember the moments you gave without expecting anything in return. And that memory will outlive you. That is your legacy. So the next time you feel lost, the next time you feel empty or broken, try giving what you wish you had. If you need encouragement, encourage someone else. If you need hope, give hope. If you need love, offer love. And watch how the very thing you give has a way of finding its way back to you multiplied. Because life has a strange but beautiful law. When you serve others, you never walk away with less. you always walk away with more. And so here we are, standing at the edge of a choice. You can leave this room or close this video and slip back into the old rhythm of life. The same habits, the same excuses, the same comfort that has kept you small. Or you can decide, right here, right now, to do something different, to rise, to act, to serve. Do not wait for tomorrow. Do not wait for the perfect moment. There is no perfect moment. There is only this moment, and this moment is enough. Every act of courage begins with a single step. Every life rebuilt begins with a single choice. Every ripple that changes the world begins with a single hand reaching out to lift another. So choose to begin. Choose to serve. Choose to step into the life you were created for. Not later. Not someday. Today. Because if not now, when? If not you, who? If not this moment, then which moment will you ever claim as your own? Remember this. Your life will not be measured by what you take, but by what you give. And the mark you leave on this world will not be written in stone or wealth, but in the hearts you touched. So go, serve, lift, love. And when the world asks who you were, let your life answer loudly, I was someone who gave. And that is the kind of answer that echoes forever. Your support means everything. If this resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. In the end, the greatest life is not the one that shines the brightest for itself, but the one that lights the way for others. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one. What if just 7 days could change the direction of your entire life? In this powerful motivational speech, we dive deep into 7 habits that can rebuild your life in a week. These are not complicated theories. They are simple, practical, life-changing actions you can apply immediately. From gratitude to self-discipline, movement to service, reflection to growth. This speech is designed to wake you up, inspire you, and push you into action.